Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, depending on where you are. I guess it's morning, still morning for everyone. Welcome to the Rainmaker's Dilemma. We're excited to have you. I'm going to introduce myself shortly, but first thing I want to say is we'd love to see your faces. So if you're willing to be promoted to panelists so that we can see you, please let us know in the chat, and Candace or Mara will put you into the room. So we'd love to have you. So today we are talking about the team you want versus the chaos you have. This is a series that we're doing for the next 2 weeks, today and 2 weeks following, how to break the cycle of burnout, bottlenecks, and team chaos and become the leader your business needs. Today, I'm joined with Verl Workman, and Christy Buck will also be joining us. And then next week, you're going to have Derek Taylor from T360, and the following week, Prem Luthra. So we're excited to have you. So today we're going to talk about cracking the code, less stress, more success, and building the team you actually want. So I'm Lisa Piccardo. I'm the SVP of Brokerage and Team Consulting here at T360. And I'll just start by giving you a quick overview of who T360 is. We are the largest consulting company in the residential real estate space. We like to say that we work within that white picket fence. So we do brokerage and team consulting, technology consulting, executive placement. We have a team that works with MLSs and associations. We do ancillary service consulting, event management, and trend analysis. We are probably most known for our T3 Trends Report, which has been being published for about 21 years, and it is the top 10 trends in the industry every year that we talk about. And we also published the Real Estate Almanac, which includes the top 1,000 brokerages in the US, the SP 200, which are the top 200 executives in the industry, the tech list of top tech providers, MLSs, and associations. And our sister company is realestatenews.com, which was founded about 2 years ago. We like to say it's the Wall Street Journal of newspaper reporting, and we deliver really authentic journalistic sound stories that are easy reads. So if you don't have a subscription, we encourage you to take a look at that. So I'm joined by Verl Workman, who is the founder and CEO of Workman Success Systems. And it's a premier real estate coaching company, right? They have decades of experience. Verl is an outstanding keynote speaker. If you haven't seen him, I encourage you to see him on stage. He's great. But they're really strategists that help real estate professionals build your profitability, sustainable businesses, all of that. Verl founded the company in 2014 with his daughter, Brianne, and he's really a respected leader. So I'm going to let Verl tell you a little bit more about his company and talk about Christy Buck.
Okay, and thank you, everybody. For those of you that are jumping on here, if you don't want to be a panelist, that's fine. But here's what I've learned about webinars, Lisa, is that when you turn your video on, you have a tendency to pay attention and you lean in and you aren't multitasking. And
I love it. And we'd like to see your face.
Well, and so it's not really about us. It's about really putting yourself and being present. One of the biggest challenges that leaders have today is their lack of ability to be present. And with social media and AI and all the stuff we have going on, it's a challenge. And so we appreciate you being here and spending your valuable time with us. And I just encourage you to be present. We're going to talk about some things that could be game changing, could completely change the trajectory of how you think about, run, and operate a team. We have a lot of expertise in it. Just to give you an example, we have over 75 coaches who are in high production, and they are people who actually run teams, and they coach people who do teams. Companies all over the world license our team training content, and there's some really cool things that we do for teams. Not only just, if you can think about or imagine any tool or resource that you wish you had, that's what we have. And then we use what we call the wisdom of our crowd, which is the brilliance of the people that work with us to build new content and message to what's going on in the marketplace today. Christy Buck is our guest today. She's having a hard time getting to the office, so she has some issues coming in. And so if you'll wait for me, Samantha. This is Samantha. Samantha is, I want to say Christy's number 2, but she's actually Christy's number 1. She has been with Christy since, I met Christy in 2012. And Samantha was already with her, and she was her assistant, who actually started out babysitting her kids and then ended up coming in to work in the business and is the true operations manager a lot of the systems and tools and resources that you'll see that we talk about were developed for Christy's team in the early days of our relationship together. So Samantha, thank you for jumping on and and hanging out with us today. When we get to introduce the team, I'm going to have you tell us a little about Christy Buck team and who you are, which is now. So Samantha, tell us a little bit about the team.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me today. So our team, like Verl mentioned, Christy and I met Verl back in 2012. I was actually pregnant with my first son back then, but it was just Christy and I for about 6 years at that point. And we were just kind of stuck doing the same thing, same numbers, 30 to 50 transactions a year. We could never break through any bigger numbers. And when we hired Verl to come in and help coach us, we quickly grew the team. The person to the left of me on the screen in that photo is Mona. She was our first buyer agent hire to this day. She's still with us all these years later. She's our top producing agent, rocking over in the commercial department, and we've just substantially grown. We've definitely done things the right way, the wrong way, everything in between on this journey.
And I'm sure we'll talk about both today. Now,
yeah.
Samantha's a fill-in. It's going to be fun to see if we can throw her some curves, Lisa, as we go through and talk a little bit about, what works and what doesn't work with teams.
Great. Yeah. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about why teams fail and also why they're the future.
So I'll jump in. I'll jump in first and talk a little bit about the future, and that's what we know about teams. The first question I'll ask everybody, and hey James, thanks for being here, man. Good to see you. I'm gonna give you a high five for being on video. I've always said that I have a face for radio, so I get the concept of not wanting to turn the camera on. But when I think about teams, I want you to think about this. How many businesses do you know of that are wildly successful that run as companies of one?
Not a lot.
Right? And so why is it? Today's consumer.
You can't be everything to everyone.
It's true. Well, so today's consumer is trained to work with teams when you think about it, and they're trained to work with specialists. And so why teams matter is because we've moved from a fog and mirror market where anybody that can fog a mirror can sell a house to a skills-based market where you have to have a higher level of skill. And I'm going to even take that another step and say we're moving from a skills-based market into a professionals market where the agents and the brokers and owners who drive professionalism at a higher level in their organizations are going to have a massive unfair competitive advantage against a single agent who does it all. Like when I got back surgery and I went to my general practitioner and he did the MRI and he came to me and said, "Hey, bro, you need back surgery." I'm like, "Okay." And he goes, "But it's okay. I also do backs." Like, what do you think the chance of that guy doing surgery on me is? James is laughing because it's true, right? There's no way.
Yeah. No.
And so I went, I wanted Tiger Woods' back doctor. And I remember going through this process. I first had to send him my MRIs. The doctors met at a meeting to decide I was a good case. And then I got an appointment 6 months later. And I get to the office and I meet with the receptionist who gets my insurance card to make sure I can pay. Then the PA comes out and brings me in the back and shows me the skeleton of the back and tells me about what surgery is going to look like. And then we get done and they have me all scheduled. I'm like, "When do I get to meet the doctor?" He says, "You don't." He says, "You meet the doctor on the day of surgery." And I'm like, think about that. Who are you in this story? I go through the surgery and I remember laying on the gurney, Lisa. I'm laying like this. And the anesthesiologist comes over to put the mask on. And he's like, "Okay, I want you to count back from 100. I'm like, wait. I've met the doctor. He comes over, he goes, "Hi, Verl, Mark Reichman," shakes my hand, and then goes 99 and I'm out. Like after surgery's over, he goes and tells my wife it went well. And then I go to the physical therapist, I go through rehab, I go back to the office, meet with the PA again, never met with the doctor again. So who are you in this story? When I think about teams, I think about this example and I think about, okay, are you the receptionist? Are you collecting the insurance card? Are you the physician's assistant or the anesthesiologist? Or are you the highly paid surgeon who does the one thing that generates the highest return on your time in your business? Or do you try and do it all? To me, that is the concept of a team. And so when we talk about teams, I think about systems and process for everything and specialization at every single area of the transaction. And that's why so many of our teams excel, is because of the specialization. A good friend of mine just got diagnosed with colon cancer. And I asked him where he's getting treated. And he said, he searched worldwide for the specialty clinic that focuses on this type of cancer. Today's consumer is trained to deal with specialists.
Yep,
And
for sure.
to me, that's why teams matter. And so,
Right.
um,
So
and
why do you think you think that's why they're the growth path of the industry, really? Because people are looking for specialists?
I think that's a big part of it. I also think that with downward pressure on commission, all of the things that are happening, we track everything. So I can tell you that, it used to take 150 points to close a transaction in our point system. Now it takes 300 to do the same transaction. You can't just do the same thing you did 3 years ago and expect to get the same result. So it's greater effort for a lower amount of commission to make the same money we've ever made. And so, and the other thing is, I don't know how many, I think the number one reason people start a team is because they feel like their life gets out of balance. And so they're with their families, but they're on their phones, or they stop going to practices and only go to games, or they're not traveling like they said they would, even though they're making more money than they've ever had. And so when their life gets out of balance, they look for leverage. And to me, all team means is leverage. And there's all different kinds of teams. You can have a virtual assistant and you're a team. You can have an assistant, or you can have a showing assistant, or you can have someone that just does marketing or transaction processing. To me, team equals leverage. And so,
Right. So
yeah,
it could be a spouse, right? Partner team. It could be
totally.
then of course we see the teamerage, right? Let's talk about that for a minute, because that's just been a really interesting topic. I came from a brand that didn't have a bunch of teams, right? And in my time with T360, I've done now in 3 years that I've been here, I've done a bunch of consulting work for teams of all sizes, right? It's the husband and wife and the fiance and the mother, right? That are the team, up to a team of 150 agents doing $1.5 billion in sales, right? So we see all of that. And of course, the teamerage model has been really interesting to me. How do you see that model, Verl? Is
Okay.
that Christie's model?
It is Christie's model. They are a team rich.
I,
And Samantha, we can talk a little bit about that, but
yeah,
like, let me
Samantha,
just,
I'd love to hear a little bit about that and what brought you there. Like, how did you end up in that model?
that's a great segue. Samantha, talk about leaving. Let's not talk about the brand, but let's talk about leaving a big box brand and becoming an independent team with your own office. Like, tell me about that transition. That was a piece of cake, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was a big undertaking. So Christy and I are with a large brokerage for a very long time, and some things had kind of happened, went underway, and we had to leave that brokerage pretty quickly. And we went independent. And honestly, it's been so great overall for us. But we have always just wanted to be a team. We had no interest in going and growing a large brokerage with hundreds of agents. As we looked at the numbers, it made more sense for us to keep everybody as a team. Where we say we had higher accountability, but where we give a lot, we expect a lot in return. So we had more control in that environment as a team. Our largest team size, we got up to about 37, 38 of us. And, everything was going really smooth. I mean, it was a big process shutting down that brokerage. We rebuilt it, but everybody was all hands on deck. Um, Everybody, has their role. We've got buyer agents, we have listing agents, we have commercial team members, transaction coordinators, social media, a sales manager, myself. But we didn't start that way. I started as Christy's assistant way back in the day, part-time assistant actually, and then slowly worked into full-time assistant, and then leading the team and handing over the files. So those of you that are listening today thinking there's no way I could have a team of 37, we started with 2 of us. For a very long time, like I said, 6 years. And then we added another, and then another. And then Verl said, hey, you have 30 days to hire 10 agents. And I hired 30 agents and 10 agents in those 30 days on the 30th day. And then it's just exploded since then.
What's interesting in this is a couple of things. Number one is I didn't just say we need 10 more agents. There's a formula to it, right?
Correct.
What's the formula?
Yeah, so every agent, you want 25 leads per agent within the company. And like Verl said, with conversion numbers, we track everything on our team. I mean, from how many phone calls they need to make, appointments set, how many people they should be out showing. And we had an influx of leads, but our numbers weren't growing. And so when Verl looked in our database, and we're averaging 400 to 600 leads a month, and he's like, well, you only have X amount of agents. Let's take that number and work backwards. Divide that number by 25, and it said we needed 25 agents, and I had 15 agents. So that's where we came up with that number. And I will say, your agents who have that fear of you're bringing on more agents, I'm going to lose something. They will never go backwards because we bring on another agent, because we're strategically hiring now versus in the beginning where we were just opportunity hiring. You know, it's
So
only
are they
there.
part of choosing who you bring on, the rest of the team? How does that work?
So with our team, we actually say we hire as a team and we release as a team. And Verl has taught us that. So I'll run the ads. I do the initial phone call interview. I'll do the face-to-face interview. Then we bring the person in to our team huddle and everybody meets them. And we're very transparent. I tell them, ask any and all questions on both sides of it. And then our team will have a discussion. But ultimately, of course, Christy and I make the decision of who we bring on, but we want our team's input. We value their input. But also on the flip side, if there's an agent who's causing a lot of cancer in the team and the team is bringing that up to us and it's a concern, Christy and I will make a decision to release a team member based on that as well. It's not just a one size fits all in that aspect. And we want our team members a part of that decision making.
I love that. Yeah. So I wanted to ask again, Verl, like go back to the team ridge and your thoughts on that specifically.
So many of our brokers have been frustrated because they've watched their margins leave the brokerage and go to the team leader. And so the margins that brokers used to have when they had agents on splits made brokerage really profitable. And now all of a sudden I've got brokers that are broke because without their production, their brokerage wouldn't even be in business. And there's a lot of that.
Let me just stop you for a sec on that, because in our consulting, right, like we look at a lot of profitability, and I'm doing a brokerage profitability study right now, and brokerages on average are making less than, they're averaging 2 and 3% net profit, honestly, and their retained earnings are maybe, 14% or less. And then of course, some of the virtual models, the retained earnings company dollar is somewhere around 7 to 9%, right? And so where we look at the team models, like they have a profitability of in the 20, 22%, 25% range, right? Which is fascinating. So you're right.
Two things got spurred with that. Number one is I love the data and research that you guys do because it gives me so much information that backs up principles, and we're able to coach those principles. So I'm grateful that you're doing the profitability study on brokerages. Because it like we know it because everybody says it, but when you put the data behind it, now it's like, oh, that's me. I can relate to that. So thank you for the work you do with that. So what we do with brokerages is we have a very unique model where we teach brokerages to own their own teams within their brokerage. You don't have to go back into production, or if you're in production, what we say is we help you get your house in order. We build your team, and I'll say a 7-figure team. So you're printing off $1 million gross and $500,000 net on your team. And then you can then work on building and growing whatever it is your vision is for your brokerage model. But if your house isn't in order, what happens is, as the broker owner, who's also in production, goes where the money is. And so they spend their time doing transactions, and they never have an opportunity to build their brokerage where the wealth is. And so that you can have it all. So a team ridge is a broker owner who's decided, I'm not going to do or focus on the brokerage side until I get my team in order. And it might be 5 years, and it might be longer than that before you say, I'd really like to build the brokerage side. Christy Buck's team, for example, is in a phase right now where the team does great, but there's a lot of agents that are good people that are being attracted to the brand because they do such a great job in the marketplace. And sometimes agents get to a place on the team where they are ready to go on their own. And as parents, we want our children to grow up and be on their own. But yet, as team leaders, we try and beat them down so they stay with us, and we get all bent out of shape when they leave. But if we really are servant leaders, then we want them to grow, and we want them to be able to have their own teams. And if you don't create that place for them, then they go somewhere else. And so we're in the process of expanding that model with Infinity so people can have a place to go and build their own teams. Now, Samantha, this would be an interesting question. If you remember the numbers, I'm going to put on the spot here. When you bring one agent to the team, what's the value of that agent in a year financially? And when you bring one agent into the brokerage, what's the value of that agent? So do the team one first.
Yeah, I was just literally sitting here thinking that. So when we, the average agent, at least in our area, does 5 to 7 transactions a year. And that's a pretty decent producing agent.
He's in Houston, by the way.
I'm sorry?
Outside of Houston.
Oh, yes. So we are, but 5 to 7 agents, maybe 3 to 5 nationally, agents on our team, we want them closing 24 transactions a year. It's a drastic difference. And it's possible. We have agents closing 40, 50, 60 transactions a year.
Wow, that's impressive. Yeah.
And the average broker agent, when we ran numbers, was maybe, and it depended on your caps and your splits, maybe $10,000, assuming they exceeded their 7 transactions a year and reached that top cap. Some of these brokerages have these, $12,000 a year caps. Our agents were making between 50,000 and 100,000 a year per team agent. So where I can have, it takes me 5 to 10 times the amount of broker agents that one team agent has. And at the end of the day, all agents want is accountability, and they want to hit their goals, and they want that support. It's a lot harder to provide that on the broker side than it is on the team side.
Like, is there anybody else in brokerage right now that is trying to figure out how to get back to profitability? You can hire one agent on your team that makes you 100 grand, or 10 agents that make you 100 grand. You want to babysit 10, or you want to hire one under the right parameters and then set the culture and create an environment for them to be able to succeed. And there's no right answer to that. It's a personal preference. You get to choose what kind of business you want.
Right. It's like, do you want to have 5,000? And I think like that's
Right.
part of it, right? Like what's your, we work with people on strategic intent. What's your vision, right? Where do you want to go? Do you want to have 100? I just did some work with a company that has less than 100 agents. They do $1.5 million, $1.5 billion in volume, right? Really high average sale price. And that's their model, right? I mean, they want that high per person productivity, but then we have other clients that want to grow to 3,000 agents, right? And it's all about scale and volume. So I think that that's something to think about. Let's talk about hiring smart and building that people foundation, right? Who do you hire when? Like, when did you decide to hire? I'm sure, Verl, you coach around this, and I'd love to hear your thoughts and then hear about the organizational structure of the Christy Burke team.
Okay, so let me go first if I can, Samantha, and then I'll come back to you. But so everything we do is a formula and a system. I believe that greatness is predictable, and also so is average. And when you track and manage the right things, I can tell you what the results you're going to be are. So here's some numbers you should know. The first one is this: for every listing you generate, you should close 1.5 buy-side transactions. So if you have 10 active listings, you should have 15 buy-side closed transactions. For every listing that you generate, you should generate between 6 and 8 leads a month. And then every 25 leads we generate, we add a buyer's agent. So it's a formula to how we build teams. It's not like, oh, do I think I need someone? It's most team leaders should never work with buyers because they're time-sucking animals that will suck your life away. And so we bring on buyer's agents and we teach them how to be really good at it, let them specialize in it. And when you train them and you onboard them and you develop them great, the client actually has a better experience because they're dealing with a specialist. So that's the concept. When it comes to hiring, our target agent is 12 to 18 months in the business. They've already been in the business 12 to 18 months. And that means that they're getting ready. They've run out of friends and family, and they're realizing it's hard. They've sold their couple of deals that they did that were easy. And now all of a sudden they realize it's hard, and they're coming up for renewal of their license, and they're trying to decide if they're going to go get a job. That's who I want. Because they know how to do they sort of know how to do a contract. They know that it's hard, and now they're open. When you get them brand new, they think they got the world by the tail and they're swinging it, and you make it look too easy for them. And so we found an ideal hire. And we also look at different disc profiles at determining, if you'll show the slide that shows the org chart, would you do that for me?
Yeah. Let me just share here.
In most cases, okay, so, and I'm going to make this available to everybody. And so this is our team org chart that basically shows you all the positions on a team, how we structure it. We start with a client care coordinator on the front left. That's how Samantha started on Christy's team, right, Samantha?
Yes, that's exactly it.
And we call it a client care coordinator because it's everything that has everything to do with the care and feeding of our client and our team leader. That's the job description. We have a very detailed job description. We have interview questions and a disc profile. Now, the next slide, I believe, if you'll go ahead and bring the next piece up, this kind of shows you what a more complex team might look like. So as we're building a team, it starts with it starts with a client care coordinator, but now we start getting into specialists. I'm going to give you this. And then the next slide shows you all the positions on a team: general, compensation practices, and the disc profile that has the highest likelihood of success in each of the roles on a team.
And you'll all get access to these. We'll have a, at the end, you can.
Would that be helpful to anybody?
Resources.
Janie, is that something you'd like? Give me a thumbs up. James is in. Okay, good. All right. Nick's not sure yet, but Nick, I'm gonna give it to you anyway, man.
And then this is the other one, right? Roles and responsibilities.
Yeah. Now this one, Samantha, why don't you talk a little bit about that? How we determine who does what.
Yeah, so this one is huge. You know, going back to the days of when it was just me and Christy, and I was her client care coordinator, we had no systems, no structure, no nothing. I mean, every night we were hopping up 11 o'clock at night, texting each other. Did you get through this inspection period? Did you get this appraisal order? Did you do this? Did you call this client? There was no structure. So we sat down and we said, before we can even grow a team, we have to have structure. You know, Christy's, like Verl said, with the disc profile. Christy and I are complete opposite on the disc profile, and that's why it's worked so well for us. I've been with her 19 years, actually, last month, which is crazy. But she's a high D, high I personality. I was very high C, high S personality, which I'm sure Verl will hop into in a second. But so we had to iron out what those duties meant. Basically, Christy does better in the field. I do better behind the scenes on all of the details. And then our buyer agent has their duties that they're supposed to do. So everybody, we like to call it a well-oiled machine. It's nobody wants to say, well, that's not my job. That's not my job. But at the same time, everybody has to know what their role is. So Christy goes on the appointment. I prepare the paperwork. I follow up the client. Buyer agents now in the car showing that client when it's ready to buy a house. They send that file over to our transaction coordinator. It's like, we don't even have to think. It's just, we have these roles. And so we started out way back in the day with a spreadsheet similar to what you see on the screen here with who does what. Now we have it built into our CRM. The second we put a client in, we apply the action plan. Everybody gets their own duties and it all falls in line to get us to the closing table.
That's awesome.
Right. So this sheet was actually created with a team that I started coaching. They were doing 100 million out of the Palisades. And Samantha knows the team. It's the Amalfi Estates in Pacific Palisades. And he wanted to go from 100 million. What he wanted to do basically is he was stuck and he couldn't grow past that. And this team was a very philanthropic team. They give away 10% of their commission to one of 5 local charities. And I said, I'll coach you. But man, it was a nightmare. They had 2 assistants and everybody did everything. So I remember flying out to California and asking the team leader who does what, and then asking the assistants who did what. And like, I was confused, forget my attention deficit. I could not understand what was going on. And I'm pretty good at multitasking. And all of a sudden I said, okay, let's stop. I want to make a list of everything you do before, during, and after a transaction. What are the office duties? What are the pre-? And we created that list. And it is, there are, that slide shows 1 page. There's over 300 tasks that they do in a $100 million team. And then I said to the 2 assistants, go in a room without the leader and write down all the things that you believe you should do and all the things you think the leader should do. And then I had the leader go in a separate room and say, put a check box by all the things you think you need to be involved in and the things you should delegate. The leader kept his name on everything, and they took his name off of 70% of it. And so the perception that they were capable of and able to do more, but he wouldn't let go, was real. I don't know if anyone else has experienced that, but as entrepreneurs, we have this weird sense of value that nobody else can do it as good as us. And part of the problem is we haven't created systems and processes to be able to expect a certain level of client interaction or client care. So everything we do well is in our heads and our hearts. And so when we put people in place that are supposed to do the job, but we haven't created the structure and system on how to do it, we set them up for failure. So with this team, Lisa, it's so fun to watch. They came back, had a conversation. We figured out we were missing 2 roles on the team, immediately hired them. Over the next 3 years, we went from 100 million to 500 million. And it was really cool to watch, not just hit the goal of what they were going to give away, but the impact it made on the community, the people that got homes, the terminally ill children that were held and got to have their last wish made, the people that were homeless that got housing, and gang members that got tattoos removed from their faces so they could get jobs.
Wow, that's awesome. I love it. So
all in that community. So that structure matters, like understanding who does what, and then clearly defining roles and responsibilities.
And Dan Bro is our EVP of talent. He's our headhunter right here at T360, places executives. And he always talks about, job description, of course, is number 1 with KPIs, all that. one of the other things is the talent profile. Like, what are you looking for, right? Like, what are the characteristics, the disc profile, all those things that you need, right? And doing assessments and due diligence and, really diving deep on references, all those pieces, right? And even one of the things I think a hiring best practice is to give them a, some sort of experiential, experience like that they have to, okay, here's how we do something and how would you do this, have them do a project, right, for you. So I think that that's really important, just hiring smart and, having a system and a process for everything. And I know next week the session is really focused on scaling and they're going to talk a lot about automation and systems and process and all of that. So that'll be great. I just want to go back to a little bit more about the numbers that matter. So at T360, we talk a lot about the 7 Ks of profitability, right, for brokerages and teams. And of course, it's agent count, it's units closed, effective commission rate, average sale price, expenses, retained earnings, and net profit. What are some of the numbers? I know, Verl, you have these at a glance metrics that you talked about earlier, but I'd love to hear from Samantha a little bit more about how do you track numbers in practice and, who owns that and what do you track?
Yeah, I love this. And actually it kind of ties into what Bro was just talking about is, I always tell our agents, whether it's our team leader, Christy and I, as we grew versus our agents now, is the only difference between an agent doing 1 transaction a month and an agent doing 5 a month are the activities in their day. And it's my job to sit there and make sure that they are doing the right activities, what we call the money making activities, to really get there. And it just starts with so we start with the My Perfect Week. Is what we call it. And it's basically in a perfect world what they would like their week to look like, right? And we map it out in 30-minute increments of we huddle every day, but then we break it down to how many phone calls, like Burl said, how many phone calls and dials does it take to set a buyer appointment? Okay, if we're getting 400 to 600 leads a month in our system, each agent needs 25 leads a month. Let's just say, for like Burl went back to how many buyers you should get from a listing. It's all a numbers game. So it's breaking it down to each agent. I knew for an agent on our team that wanted to make over $125,000 of their own money, which was on a higher split with us as a team, they needed to have 13 actual conversations per day. And that was just based on all of the metrics that we just kind of went over, so I'm feeding them so many leads. They're calling through the database, setting 13 conversations a day, which from that, let's say they're setting 6 appointments, right? And then we show up to 4 of those appointments actually in person. There's no 100% ratio on any of this when you start calculating it. And then from there, we might write 1 contract, and they know. So we're tracking every day. We do what's called their daily success habits. We want them to hit 61 points a day. And this is your Workman metric. And they get various points. They get 1 point per conversation. They get 10 points to write an offer, 10 points to go to a closing. The goal is those higher money making activities let the agent focus on, and our admin handle the rest. And that's really what takes us from those, 1 to 2 transactions an agent up to that 4 to 5 a month. Every single day I'm tracking it. Every morning we huddle with our team at 10 a.m. I open our computer screen and I share it for everybody. And I pull up their numbers and I'll point to them and I'll say, okay, Caitlin, I can see what the numbers are, but I'll say, Caitlin, tell me your numbers. And she may say, oh, I hit 61 points today. Or you know what, I fell short and I hit 43. And we talk about it, but what activities did we do? What did you do in those 43 points? The points isn't what matters. It's the activities that got us to those points. I had an agent actually this morning. She had 36 points yesterday and our goal was 61. But I knew she had a closing. She wrote an offer and she had a buyer's rep signed. Those are pretty big activities. Although she only hit 36 points, we're praising those points, but I'm saying, okay, what can we do today to make sure you hit those 61 points? Because that's what I need for you to get your 3 transactions this month. So every day I'm doing that. We do a once every 2 week one-on-one meeting with each agent where it's a 20-minute check-in. We're deep diving into their CRM. How are they doing on leads? Are they doing all the expectations they committed to the team? And then I also step in and we do a quarterly check-in with each team member and we're looking at their numbers. So if an agent's goal is 36 transactions this year, what did that look like on a quarterly basis? How far are they to hitting that goal? And then what do we need to do the next quarter to get them on track? So it's a daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly.
Wow, that's
Somebody,
so impressive. And I just want to do a shout out to Samantha, who was pulled in here at very last minute with no prep for this. And so she's speaking from the heart and telling us what it's really like. So good job, Samantha. That's amazing. Verl,
You know,
anything else on numbers? Like,
yeah, I
what
think
do you
that
see with some other clients when they're misaligned, right? Because it's not always perfect. We know that, right? There's mistakes and
so there's the activity numbers that we track from a team member perspective to ensure that they're producing. Like our goal as leaders is to help our people be successful. Most people start teams because they're too busy and they need some stuff to help them. But
Mhm,
you'll really switch as a leader when you realize that your job is to help other people be successful, not to hire a bunch of people to help you become successful. And when
mhm,
that switches for you, that's when the culture changes. That's when your values matter. That's when you start creating an environment that allows people to thrive. I will tell you, Lisa, that for me, one of the biggest challenges is that brokers don't, they feel guilty being profitable. But I'm going to tell you that we have a responsibility as leaders to create stability and security for the people that we lead. And you can't create stability and security without profitability. And
mhm.
I'm going to go even a step
Sure.
further and say if you really want to have a business that has any value, you have to create stability and security and profitability without your production.
Mhm.
And then all of a sudden your business has a life of its own that is creating something of real value. And T360 does a great job of evaluating businesses, helping with the transitions, consulting on building a business. But I'll tell you that when we go in to buy a business, if the first thing I do is take the leader's production out. And then if it's not profitable without it, yeah, you have a hobby. You've created a job for
Oh
yourself, but
yeah,
not
no,
really a
for
business.
sure. We're doing a lot of valuations right now, and there's a lot of talk, and we spoke last week on succession planning, right?
Yep.
I heard from an economist, this is the year that there's more people turning 65 ever in the history and ever in the future, right? And so think about it, right? 65 is a retirement age for many people. And so there's a lot of brokerage leaders and team leaders that are looking for their exit strategy. And they need, one of the ways that they need to exit is to create a team or put somebody else in a leadership position, right? And you're right about all of that. So,
In one of the
yeah.
next, I think, in one of the next calls, I don't remember which one we have the agenda. We're going to talk about like how do you actually pay people? What kind of commission splits create profitability? I'll give you a rule of thumb since you asked about the numbers. But the rule of thumb is that as a team leader, you want to be at a 50% gross profit after your cost of sale, meaning after you generate the lead and pay the agent, you should be at
Mm-hmm.
50%.
Yep.
If you hire buyer's agents and you pay them 60, 70%, and then you have all the expenses of running the business, you aren't profitable. And so it's kind of like going into a business. Like if James and I went into a business together and I said, okay, James, you put up all the money and you sign the lease on the store and you put all the inventory in the store. I'll come in and work the cash register, but I'm really good with people and I'll just take 75% off the top. And then out of the 25% you have left, you can replenish the inventory, pay back your marketing, run your bit. Would you do that deal?
No.
Okay, well, that's how a lot of teams function and run. And
Yeah.
it's dysfunctional. It doesn't make any sense, but they don't have any skilled advice of people who've been down this road and screwed it up a bunch to figure out how to not have to make those mistakes. And so 50% gross profit after the cost of sales is the benchmark you want to use. And then if you're a producing team leader, your margin should be in the 30s. If you're not in production, your margin should be, Lisa, you and my numbers are probably within 1% of each other.
Yeah.
22 to 27%
Yes.
is our target for a
Yep.
leader who's not in production of a team. If you're in production,
Mhm.
it's going to be higher because you're contributing to it without a split. But
So
that's
if there are any brokerage owners on here that don't have a team or aren't leading a team, like hopefully you're hearing that there's a real benefit to creating a team for your brokerage, right? A lead team, an e-team, like some sort of a team, right? To really help increase your value. When we do our 360 business review, we look at those things, right? We're like, okay, you're not very profitable right now. Like we need you to like focus on adding a transaction fee and bringing in ancillary services and consider creating a lead team and all these different things. So I'd like to move on to a couple, just the value of coaching, and just want to touch on it a little bit. And I was going to ask Christy this. I'm going to ask Samantha this question: how long have you had a coach, and have you ever been without a coach? And tell me a little bit about, and about that.
Yeah,
it better be
absolutely.
good because I know your coach.
I know, right? So we're huge advocates of coaching, and not just because Verl's on the call, but let's go back to 2012. I was Christy's part-time assistant, and we were with a large brokerage. We were seeing these other teams get these big awards and hit these big numbers, and we were doing, like I said, 30 to 50 transactions a year. That was about 250,000 in gross commission income back then. And we're seeing people hit 1 million, 2 million, and we're like, we could not work any harder. Like, what are we doing wrong that they're doing right? We met Verl in a room, and he actually wasn't taking on coaching clients. But when Christy met with him, she was a single mom, raising 2 small boys, and we've both actually single moms raising boys in this industry. So I've learned a lot from her in that aspect. Is she just wanted more time with her boys. Like Verl said, she would go to her kids' games if she could even make it to a game, but she couldn't even watch because she was on her phone the whole time with transactions and deals. And we were like, something has to give. So with coaching, it was very uncomfortable at first. I am definitely one of those that thinks I can do everything in my way only. And Verl has opened my eyes to see that is not how it should be, very controlling. And so when Verl came in, he really helped us structure everything and how to gain balance and life balance. And Christy had that balance with her kids and how to set personal goals and delegate. And right, we teach people how to hire, train, trust, and delegate. That's Christy's biggest 4 things. And then we built systems and processes, and Verl helped us go from that 30 to 50 transactions, 200,000 in commissions we were making a year. The next year, we just wanted to get to 350,000. By year 3, we wanted to get to 500,000 in commissions. We did that year 1. We went from 250 to 575 in gross commission income. I believe year 2, we went to 750,000. Year 3, we hit $1 million in gross commission income.
Yeah.
And our best year, when COVID came around, we were doing 600 transactions a year, almost 4 million in commissions. We never thought that was possible. There's no way we could have done it with just Christy and I, but we needed that with Verl to teach us, how to do all of these things. We knew how to sell houses. We didn't know how to grow a business. We had no idea. And I will say, all these years later, people ask us, why do you still have a coach? You're doing almost 4 million in commissions, 140 million in sale volume. Our average sale price isn't quite as high as some other markets. And because the issues never change, right? We have the same issues today sometimes that we had back then. It's just on a different scale or different challenges for different reasons. And so Verl's constantly helping us. Okay, now what pillar of income do we open? He's helped myself buy investment properties, buy my own home for my kids, how to take those duties and instill it in our other agents, right? How to help all of them grow. And we won't ever stop coaching.
I love it. I'm sure it's not, I worked with a coach for a while when I was in a previous position, and I'm sure that it's not always butterflies and rainbows, right? I'm sure that sometimes they call you on stuff and give you things you don't want to hear. Has that ever happened with Verl?
Yeah, there have been some calls where we get on and one of us are in tears and we're just like, we can't do this anymore. We can't do coaching anymore. Like, this is just too hard. We want out of it. And Verl helps us take that emotion out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And just think tactfully, right? Like, what are your goals? What is your why? What's your team's goal? And let's map it out. Like, he's always been there professionally for us, personally for us. And it's not always easy. There was a time in life, Verl said, you need a CRM. And I am super techie. I'm like, I'll just build a CRM. Like, I'll do it myself. Why would I use somebody else's? And obviously months went down the road, never built my own, never built
a year.
And he said, all right, that's it. You're using this program effective today. You have to use it for 6 months before you're allowed to change it your way. I did it, and to my surprise, it worked really well. And then I just started using everything, our trackers, how to track everything, how to measure it. I did exactly what he said, use it his way for 6 months, and then we can modify it. And there's not a system or program that he has told us to use that I look back and say, man, I wish you wouldn't have told me that. Like,
That's great.
I look back and I wish I would have done it sooner.
But we don't always use the same ones that we started with.
Nope.
Like, one of the things that's interesting about this story, first of all, thank you for that, Samantha. And I take 1% credit. The 99% is the work that they have to put in to actually execute on the ideas and the vision. I'm just a guide in the process. and someone that asks questions that doesn't have an agenda. It's like I don't know how many of you have people like that in your life, Janie, that they just care about you and they want you to be successful, and there's no other agenda. That's it. I just want you to get whatever you want. And so let's figure out what that is and then map it out and go. And then you get to choose whether or not you do the work. And when you do the work, the results happen. But when you don't do the work, then they don't. You asked, has it ever been hard or have we ever had difficult times? I would say that we've failed more than we've succeeded, meaning we've tried things and implemented things that didn't work more than we've had success, but we don't grow without failure. And I think one of the biggest things for leaders to learn is just like parents. I have 6 kids. Like if we never let our kids fail, they never grow up and they'll never move out. And my youngest just graduated from high school, and she's kind of grown up in a different house than my older kids. And she hasn't had to fail as much. My boys, when they were young, had to go out and knock doors and mow lawns and do aerating in order to, pay for their hand-me-down Suburban they got from their mother. And my youngest kids, they just have a different lifestyle. And so I can see as a parent that if I didn't create the harsher environment, that it's harder for them to be in difficult situations and succeed. And the same is true with coaching clients and with team members. So there's a lot of life lessons that we learn as parents by screwing that up that we can apply to being leaders that make a difference. And I'm just so proud of both Christy and Samantha for just being great moms. Like if you ask me what my greatest accomplishment is, I would look at their lives and say, look at these amazing women and what they do with their families and how they raise their kids and what they're doing with their team. That's the joy I get out of working with them.
And that's session 3 too. So session 2 is focused on more systems and processes and automation. Section 3 is really about that, about the balance and the joy and finding a place for that. So I'd love to open it up for questions. If anybody has questions for the panelists, if anybody else wants to promote themselves to be on screen, that'd be great. And ask questions or tell us one thing that you'll implement as a result of this session.
Yeah, I would love go in the chat, and like if you have something that you're trying to figure out or you're trying to work through something as a team, you have Samantha and Lisa and myself. Like ask the question, and we'll give you the real counsel as if you were a client. Like, what are you trying to figure out? What's going on, or what's your most urgent business problem today that if you could solve it, you'd be like, dang, good webinar.
We do have one in the Q&A. I think maybe, I don't know if
Great.
the chat's open or if we have to put it in Q&A.
Either way.
Samantha, what were some of the back office hurdles you had to overcome when moving from a big brokerage to a teamerage?
That's a really good question. The biggest thing would be the compliance piece. When we went independent, is we had a compliance structure and those programs with the big brokerage. So now we became the compliance here. So just building that. So we do what's called an agile. It's a project management system. So Christy and I sit and we map out everything that we thought needed to happen with moving offices. I will say I wish I had ChatGPT back then because I didn't know. Now you could go into ChatGPT and just say, I'm switching brokerages. What are the things I should be thinking of whenever I take it on myself? And it will literally tell you every single detail. But it was setting up that compliance piece, deciding who was going to be, now getting the check, signing the CDAs, who's checking the files. That was it, honestly. But I also think it was fun. Like looking back, that was a fun time and we learned a lot.
That's a great experience, Sharon. I remember a Friday having your broker shut everything off and kicking you out of the office. And then by Monday having to have a brokerage set up. And the one thing that I look back at is the relationship capital that it required to make all that happen. You had the CEO of Boomtown set you up a company website. We had Rita from the Houston Association of Realtors that you would run through the Texas Leadership Program, fast track your brokerage approval to be able to actually be on the MLS and move your team to it. You had marketing people that helped you with your branding. It was really cool because Samantha and Christy had given so much back to the industry and shared that they were able to capitalize on relationship capital. And Monday morning they were in business and didn't miss a beat. And it was pretty wild to move a team, turn them into a brokerage, and have them be up and running over a weekend. And there was a lot of stuff going on in their personal lives at the time as well. It was a very difficult, I would say it was a very, I don't think I've experienced a more high stressful time in anybody else's business that I've coached over 25 years than that weekend when we were just like all hands on deck. And it was cool to see people come out of the woodwork and really it was a community that came together and said, let's let's make sure these people are set up and going because they've done so much for us.
Awesome. Other questions, comments?
Yeah, you got a great group here. Okay, if I were, this question says, Verl, if you were to take on a client, would you use ChatGPT to be your coach? So Nick, that's a really good question. So we've invested, somebody just wrote an article about us, about a 7-figure risk. We've invested heavily in AI. And so I want you to imagine 25 years of intellectual property, training, coaching stuff, all of the systems for everything you need to run a team. We've invested in technology that allows us to take all of that content and put it into our own AI engine. It's in a program called Workbench, and Samantha uses it. And so now when any of our clients or coaches ask a question, it answers with a tool, a resource, a video, and a system that's current from the wisdom of our crowd, but it doesn't allow outside influence in that confuse the message from ChatGPT. And so, Nick, we are very, very heavily invested in AI and coaching with AI and the technology that uses. We did a hire with a team in Washington, D.C. last week. And in our AI engine, we took the resume, the job description, the compensation plan. We took the DISC profile, and we created the interview questions. We created phrasing the questions in a way to determine whether or not their ChatGPT resume was authentic, and we could read through the cracks. And it was a phenomenal interview. Matter of fact, I asked for 10 specific questions, and I was the final interview. So the client team had interviewed. This is for an operations manager. The team had interviewed. The team leader had interviewed. They'd done a working interview, and now it was time to, are we going to make this guy an offer? And it was a big offer. And I said, I want to talk to him. And so we brought him in for the interview. I had 10 questions, and my goal in my with my AI session with all of this was taking all of our philosophies and things we talk about to find out if this person was a good fit. What we ended up with was 10 questions, and of the 7 of the 10, this highly qualified operations manager answered with, wow, that's a good question. And then went through, and that's what you want. You want to ask better questions. So Nick, yeah, we do big time AI stuff to do it.
I want to just do a shameless plug for T360's AI workshop that we're doing October 15th to 17th in Austin, Texas. And Mara will put it in the chat. But we have Steve Brown, who's this former Google futurist who spoke at our leadership summit doing it. And it's really for brokerage and team leaders about how to truly use AI in your business, right? Like we all hear oh, we should be using it this way, but I think that it's going to be really tactical and great. So we'll put that in the follow-up as well. So we had another question from James. Samantha, how's scoring helped you?
I'm so sorry, Lee. I mean to interrupt you. Finish your question. I was going to have Mara put up the QR code. I promised people we'd give them stuff, and I want to give them a QR code so they can download it.
Okay, yeah. Let me just
So
share that.
Throw that up while we're answering questions.
Yep. So let me make sure that everybody sees the next webinar date, and then I'll put up the QR code too. So the next webinar is next Tuesday again. Derek is actually our AI expert at T360, but automation and all of that. So he'll be joining Verl and Mahala, another one of Workman's coaching clients, on the call. And then let me just, sorry, am I sharing here?
There you go.
Okay, yeah, so this is next time. And then this is the QR code, which we'll also put a link in here for those materials, but we can answer additional questions in the meantime.
You were asking Samantha a question, Lisa, and I interrupted you.
James had a question about, it's in the chat. Let me just stop sharing. Maybe you could read it.
I can read it here.
Yeah. You see it?
Hold on, I will in a sec.
Okay.
I have to see my everyone. Okay, let's see. James wanted to know, Samantha, how's the scoring helped you? Do you have agents that feel like it's a negative thing for accountability or a positive thing? Really good question.
Yeah, I love this, honestly. So it makes me immediately think of an agent. Her name is Lori. She's on the team now. I very first hired her. She was a retired teacher, and she didn't want to have a goal. She's like, I don't want to go. I don't want to go. I don't want to look at numbers. I'm like, well, we need a goal. So we started with the goal, and now Lori is the most competitive person on our team. Like, we do agent of the month, we do agent of the year. She looks forward to that. At the end of the year, she gets a glass award if she hits a certain level in the company. and they are so competitive, but it's a friendly competition. We always start with accountability as love, right? My job, it doesn't affect me no matter what they do on their daily success habits, right? It's their goals. It's what's important to them. I'm here to help them reach their goals and obviously the company goals. But I think it's a positive. At first, it's uncomfortable, right? But when people know like where our heart is I'm here to help you. It's not you here to help the company. That's a big game changer. And the agents, they want to hit their goals. They want to see those numbers. They want to see that income. I think it's been a great positive. You will have a little uncomfortable phases in there, but when they see the value of it and they understand why it's there for them, they'll love it. And actually, our agents get upset if we don't have a huddle, we don't have a meeting. I don't do agent of the month because we were traveling. They will start texting me. Why is my picture not up on the board outside? I did the most
I won.
month. I won. I did my 61 points yesterday. Why didn't you pull it up this morning in huddle? They love it.
Great
Thanks.
question. Annabelle had a question. She raised her hand and I
Yes.
clicked on it, but let's let her come on and ask it. Annabelle, can you come off mute and ask your question, or you can type it in the... Hey, James, nobody wants to track their stuff in the beginning because they hide. Most agents spend the majority of their time doing fake work, pretending to be busy and not making any money. And what it does is it takes away the places that allows them to hide, and it creates transparency. And once they get over the fact that it's not for us, it's for them to see, that when they're taking time away from their family to go to work and they're actually not living in integrity by doing any work, they start to change behavior. But we have really, really strong messaging on how to teach that, how to create that culture. And we create buy-in in it in the beginning. It's not something that happens overnight. The other thing I'll tell you is that great agents aren't hired, they're developed.
Yeah,
And
for
so
sure.
our job is business development and people development. And so like we get a lot of joy and it's fun to when you develop a good agent, no matter where they go the rest of their life, they'll succeed, whether it's in real estate or anything else.
Annabelle is here now.
Okay, great.
You can hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah.
hi.
Hi. Well, I was trying to get myself unmuted here. Well, I came in a little late. I don't know what happened with my time, which is why I had signed up to this, because my time does go by, but then I end up seeing where I am with my production and it's not getting to where I need it to be. So it's been very helpful to see or to hear Samantha's experience and how it just really resonates with what I'm in right now. So just a lot of helpful information. I don't have really any questions because everything that you guys been talking about right now just checks off everything that I've been wanting to hear. So I appreciate all that knowledge and it just seems like, once again, coaching is definitely the way to go to put you in the direction that you need to, because there's a lot of things that I can do and that I'm doing, but I need to focus on getting myself aligned so I can get to my goals instead of doing all these random tasks. And then I'm seeing the end of the year and I'm thinking, what did I do? I've been busy, but I haven't been, achieving my goals. So.
Well, you'll get to see, if you missed the beginning, we will send out a recording and a recap and all the links that we shared in the chat. So I think there was one other question that
what's fun really
for.
quick is Annabelle's
Yes.
more normal than most. Like she's
Yeah.
normal. You're doing too much. You don't know where your time goes. You're just overwhelmed. And if that's the case, when you do your downloads, schedule a coaching consultation. Let's have a conversation and we'll just see if we're a good fit. I think everybody should have a coach, whether it's Workman or somebody else. You got to find someone who aligns with your values, that specializes in the area where you need the most help. And so that's what I would say is have a conversation. We can do an analysis of your business, figure out whether or not we're a fit, and then go from there. So thank you, Annabelle, and I hope we have a chance to chat with you. Sorry, Lisa. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I agree. Thank you. So we're at time, but let me, Sonia asks, how do you handle, and this is a question for Samantha, how do you handle agent websites? Do they get a website when they join, or is everyone responsible for setting up their own site?
So this is a fun one, and every team leader is going to choose to do this different. We personally, we allow our agents to market themselves very well, but as the team, we have certain guidelines that it has to say. Our agents, so we are currently, we're with Boomtown, we're switching over to Sync, but our agents have their own website domain within our company. We want them running the searches on our team website. So for example, Lori has lori.christybuckteam.com. You click on that, it's Lori, it's her face, it's her picture, but it's the entire company's listings. I have full control over Lori's back end side, but she can market it all she wants all day long. Those leads funneled to Lori. But it just kind of keeps everything in sync. I will say, as a team, you do want everybody to be uniform. You want them to have a little independence, but you want it to be uniform to, again, to follow that structure so that I can duplicate it for the next agent.
Thank you. Awesome. Well,
Great
thank you
question.
all. Thank you, Verl, and thank you, Samantha, for jumping in at the last minute. We really appreciate you. And we're sorry Christy didn't make it, but maybe we could pull her into another call. And we hope you'll come to the next 2 sessions and bring a friend.
Look forward to it. Thanks, Lisa, for putting
Okay.
this together.
Thanks.
And,
Take care. Bye.